Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of Games, Things, and Stuff, where we talk about games, things, and, well, stuff. Whatever tickles our fancy in the moment whatsoever. And if you don't like it, too bad. Don't watch. Suck an egg. Go somewhere else. Who cares? That's the type of personalities you're going to be dealing with. Individuals who no longer give a crap because we're getting old and no one cares.
Couldn't said it better myself. I'm Micah, by the way.
How are you, sir?
Doing good.
I am Nathan, aka Arthur Klaus. If you read books, I have 3 published novels on Amazon currently, as well as a children's book, The Adventures of Mr. Goose, in case that tickles your fancy, or if you have kids, whichever. Oh, coffee. You know what I did this morning?
What's that?
I have this cup of coffee, and I had to give the talk this morning because our speaker that was going to come today, got his days mixed up. It happens. I do that. I work at nighttime, so it happens to me all the time. So not nobody's upset about that. What I'm upset about is I made this cup of coffee and I forgot about it. That's what I'm upset about. Not the fact that I had to give the talk. I was going to have to give it next week. But I forgot I had made a cup of coffee and I left it on my desk drinking, which I've heard it both ways. Anyway, I now have this a cup of coffee and it is absolutely delicious. By the way, this is mushroom coffee.
Really?
Mushrooms. I never thought in my life that I would ever drink coffee made of mushrooms. Yet here I am drinking coffee made of mushrooms and enjoying it.
Never heard of such a thing.
It's good. It's really good. It's not, you can tell it's not coffee in the traditional sense. It has its own flavor, but I like it. Other people may not like it, but I enjoy it. It doesn't have all the caffeine either, so you don't get that like caffeine drop, you know.
Well, I'll tell you what I did yesterday was I made some gluten-free cheese biscuits with the Red Lobster recipe, and they're not as good as the ones that have gluten, obviously, but they weren't bad.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. I'm kind of fighting the whole gluten thing. I don't really worry too much about it. I probably should, but I don't.
Well, here's the funny thing. I didn't know they were gluten-free when we bought them.
Mm.
So I probably wouldn't have bought them that way. I know I wouldn't have bought them because I'm not into the whole gluten free stuff either.
I mean, I understand.
All I know about gluten is it's delicious.
Yeah, well, like there are people who are actually allergic to it. Like like James. James is allergic to it, and it can mess somebody up who's actually allergic to it. Who like would die if they continued to eat it.
Right.
So it does happen. I think fewer people are actually allergic to gluten than say they're allergic to gluten. Like, I have a gluten allergy. And really, they just want to be a numbnuts about ordering something. But anyway, let's get into the games part of things. We can talk about those individuals towards the end.
This is the stuff part.
Yeah, that's the stuff part at the end. We'll get back into that. But let's talk about the games. So, I just want to bring out firstly that we are creating. You've been helping me beta test an RPG that I have written from scratch, the rules, all of the mechanical part of the game, as well as lore and a world around it. So be looking out for that. I was going to try to do Kickstarter, but there's another company apparently that is that's trying to like break into the space of helping people start their own games and stuff to get the funds in order to you know be able to uh, distribute. Let me say it correctly. My words fail me in this moment. My mouth has become like cotton. Um, to help them kind of get a finished product so that people can play their game. So I'm going to look into that and see how that goes. But I am in the final iteration of it, so it will be going into the final iteration. I'm working on that now. Around that, let's talk about this for a second. AI art. What's your opinion on, there are people who are artists and they spend a lot of time learning how to do art, and they learn how to draw faces and landscapes and armors and weapons and everything you can think of. What is your opinion on AI art? Is it something that is taking away from artists, or should it be something that is allowable? For instance, in our situation where we're creating this game from scratch, we have zero money to pay out thousands of dollars to artists. Because art gets expensive. Like, I got some art off of Fiverr, and even the Fiverr stuff can get very pricey. Like, if you want the several pieces of artwork that I got made for the game on Fiverr, I paid to have all of the licensing rights to it. And it got pretty pricey just for those two things.
Yeah.
It was like a couple $100.
The artificial ones, I mean, I've seen some that you can't tell whether they're, man-made or the AI or whatever. So I don't like that it cuts the middleman out as far as, the true artists. But like you said, there's some of us that just can't afford that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I had this idea years ago, and again, it's one of those things that like you need capital to start it, right? Because every business needs money to get off the ground, and depending on the business, some businesses you can start with $20 in your pocket and do it and take off, right? It just takes more labor as opposed to materials or whatever. But I had this idea that I wanted to make a website where artists would submit their work that was pre-made, pre-done, without any interference from anybody. They just submit the artwork and they put a price on it. And the website would have a standardized price depending on what kind of art it was, So like if you wanted to submit a basic pencil drawing, right? You might pay $5, right? Somebody might come along and they pay $5 to be able to use your art, to download that art. And so basically the idea was that the website would get a simple 15% cut of that for processing, right? Because you would have to go through like PayPal or something like that, and PayPal's going to take I think it's like 1.7%, or it's almost 2%, right? So like they're going to get their 2%, and then I would get that processing would come out of that 15%, right? So if you could round up to 2%, be getting 13% of whatever the artist made for processing, for having the server of being able to upload to it and all that stuff. Because having that server, that gets expensive, keeping that stuff up. And so the idea would be, you might have some artists that submit these very extensive art pieces that might go for $100, $150 because of how much work went into it. So essentially, the artist would upload the work, and it just stays there until it gets bought. Right? So people can come in, they can type in keywords. I want a picture of a fighter because I'm playing D&D this weekend, and I want a picture of a fighter. And so they would just type in the keywords to find that, find the one they want, and then buy it. Unfortunately, in order to do that, that would cost thousands of dollars to get that up and running, that type of thing up and running. And I just didn't have it. And it's unfortunate that there's not. You can go to like Pixel Bay or whatever, and there's a couple of others like, what's that other one? I used to look on there just to see what they had.
Is DeviantArt in that category?
Shutterstock.
Shutterstock.
And so like you can get stock photos off of there and pay for them. And that's exactly what they do. You upload your picture, and then people just pay you for your picture, right? And they get to use it. However, that's part of the deal. That's you do that. Unfortunately, it's not a lot of artists that do it. It's a lot of like photographers and stuff, which in itself can be expensive to get into. Some of those cameras cost like $4 or $5 grand a piece, which is ridiculous, but they get amazing pictures. So I guess really like the the thing is like I would be more than willing to pay an artist for their work, but I can't pay thousands and thousands of dollars because I just don't have it. Right?
Right.
Like I wouldn't have it unless I did a Kickstarter, at which point I could use the Kickstarter money to then pay artists to come in and do the artwork.
And you're also not looking to make a fortune off of this either. You're looking to get people to enjoy it and have fun with it, not to rob their piggy banks with it.
Right. Yeah. So like my idea is to put it on like Amazon or some other place like that where I can self-publish it, and so I could have it strictly as a ebook and drop that price down to $5, right? So now as an ebook they're only having to pay $5 for the entire core book. I'm not gonna make a lot of money off of that.
Right.
The other option is if you wanted to do it as a physical copy, you're gonna have to jack that price up to like $30, right? Because there's a lot of pictures and stuff like that, which means the cost of them printing it is gonna be way up. And so you're looking at making like maybe $4 per book sold. So like the author's not making a lot, even on Amazon.
Yeah. The ebook might actually be more of a profit for you.
Yeah, because here's the thing: it's more of a profit for Amazon, so they're going to take way less. Like you sell a book for $5, and they're going to take like $1.30 right off the top. But that gives you more of a profit, even though it's $5. You're making more than 50%
Right.
off of the sale off of an ebook. So it's it's a little more. There's so much nuance with that because they're trying to take it to court. There was one of these AI art developers. They were actually using other people's finished product, and in that case, those individuals should absolutely be paid, right?
Right.
If you're using somebody else's art, they should be paid, or at the very least, if you didn't know you were using somebody else's art, that they weren't okay with it, the artist should at very least say, hey, could you take it down? I didn't give you permission to use that. Because not everybody does it out of malicious intent. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, like, the average person, the average user of the AI art generator, not doing it for any malicious reasons. I can see a corporation doing it for malicious purposes, but usually not the average person. They're probably like, hey, that's kind of cool. I want to use that because I want an art piece on my wall, but I don't want to pay $500 for it.
Right.
You know? But yeah, I found this one where um, it's free, but you got to watch ads, and supposedly it doesn't use, according to their terms and service, it does not use anything previously done by anybody else. It does, however, promote ArtStation, where a lot of artists go and post their stuff. And I was thinking about looking on ArtStation to see if there's anybody, I could find to do artwork for the book, because there will be more artwork later on. It's like once it kind of, if it takes off, that's the big thing. If it takes off, there's always later on when you need more artwork done, you can go to an artist and be like, hey, I didn't have the money to pay an artist before, but I got the money now. Can you do some professional artwork? So I'm thinking about looking there to see if I can find anything. Because they might have, you might run into somebody who's got like a big portfolio that's already done on their profile, and they might be willing to part ways with it if it fits your needs for a lesser price, But that's all I got to say about my game specifically. Let's talk about Mountain Blade Bannerlord. I've
I was wondering when that was coming.
I've been I got it when it was in early access, and I really enjoyed it. Needed a lot of work, and they finally did the full release, and it looks amazing. They did a lot of things to it. There were more tweaks I feel like they could have made to so that the character had more options. But overall, I like it. They added more armor and weapons and things in there that you could do. They added better choices for character development and all that stuff. The one thing I wish they would have absolutely changed and released, and they might later on, who knows, is instead of having to like take a castle by force or whatever, there's parts of the map when you zoom out that are empty, right? There's no other like towns or cities there. You can travel around in that little like swath, in the swath around some of the areas, but there's nothing there. It's just bandits just travel around in there. So it's like, I kind of wish like maybe like if you went over there and you stayed over there too long taking out bandits, maybe like you had to take out like a bandit lord or whatever, and then maybe you take over his little hideout and you can build a town or city around it. That would be pretty cool.
How far have you gotten in the game?
I've beaten it once during early access when I just joined a faction, right? And there wasn't like all of the, they didn't have like all the badges and things you could win, all the achievements. So it was really just purely like just beating it out of just beating the game for beating the game's sake. I have decided in my first official playthrough of the game after release was that I would play the ultimate merchant. So I created the Merchant King and got his trade skill to 300 and made enough money where I could then start buying and selling cities. So what I did in the interim was actually, so there's this cool thing where cities will actually rebel against their lord if their loyalty gets too low. So what I would do is I would watch, and a couple of them, I waited until they rebelled against their lord, and I just zipped over there and took the city real quick. And I didn't have enough money to buy those at the time, so I had to just fight that faction, the rebel faction. So I would just declare war on the rebel faction that was rebelling, and then just take the city, which you can do with like 80 to 100 troops, right? Like you just need to have them like trained up so that they're elite, and make sure to like just completely demolish the walls, right? So like don't go in the city, don't do the attack until you just destroy all the walls, because that makes it easier for you then to invade and get past all the archers and stuff. So that the archers, you're not just standing outside the wall and their archers just pelt you. The other thing is, what happens is the militia archers will actually, they'll leave. They'll just like, they'll be like, I'm out, because you're starving them. You starve in the city, and so they all the militia archers just, they're gone. They just leave out. So it only leaves their infantry, and then if there's a like a lord's party in there, because the rebel leaders they're considered lords, minor lords, and they'll have their own parties. So if there's a lord there, they might have a few archers, but instead of fighting 200 archers, you're going to be fighting 10 or 15, which is a huge deal.
Right. For those that don't know what Bannerlord is, why don't you explain it?
It is an open world sandbox world conquering game. Well, the world of Calradia. There's I don't know, it's kind of akin to like medieval, what's a good comparison? What's that game? Trying to think of it. Dang it! Why do I want to keep saying sword and sorcery? But that's not it. It's dang nabbit. Civilizations. It's like a medieval civilizations, except you don't necessarily have to start your own faction, right? You can just join another faction. You don't have to do your own.
So you build up your troops and can invade different areas, and um, depending on what goals you have, like you said, you like being the merchant. Um, what else do you do in it?
You can trade. You can be the ultimate champion. It like so like there's this cool thing you can unlock where you get to the top of the leaderboard at these like gladiator fights essentially, and so like you can go, every city in the map will have one eventually, and it just kind of rotates around the map. So you can just follow these gladiatorial battles, and you can go in there and you win coin and special prizes. And the more lords that join, the better your prize is, right? So like, I think the most expensive thing you can win is a helmet. And it's worth like 200,000 gold, or 200,000 dinars. Sorry, but it's basically gold. But yeah, it's like this closed faced helmet, and it's worth like 200,000 dinars. It's cool too though, because like it gives you like a 52 armor, which is the highest any helmet in the game can give you.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate it?
I'd give it a solid 8.5.
Eight
And
and a half.
it's only at an 8.5 because I feel like there are a few like quality of life things that I feel like they could have done just a little bit different, that would have made it a solid 10 easy.
Okay. And maybe with the expansions or anything, additions that they add to it, maybe it'll make that 10.
Yeah, let's hope so. Now, the thing is, like, if you have a PC that can handle it, like my PC can't really handle it. It immediately shuts down. There's a really good modding community around this game. So if you have a computer that can handle putting the mods in there, there are mods that do everything from making it where you can play in the French Revolution, to playing as pirates, to like there's this one that changes the world completely. It's like makes it a whole new map. They change all the factions. It's oh geez, it's crazy. They put so much stuff into these mods.
Hmm. Did you have anything else to say about it?
Just,
Should we move on to the next game?
I really like it. If you like computer games, pick it up. It's a great game. It's really good. You can play any kind of character you want. You can play a blacksmith. You can play a swordsman. You can play a horseman, or you can do like me and just play the ultimate tradesman. Oh, and my clan has like 80 members. We had super tons of kids. I just would go to a city. I would just go to a city, and so like once my character got married, I would just sit at a city until his wife got pregnant, and he ended up having like 7 kids. Right, so then like those kids had bunches of kids, and then those kids had a bunch of kids. I'm playing as my character's granddaughter right now, or not the granddaughter, the oldest daughter. The oldest daughter, and then the next one in line to take over is one of the great grandchildren. That's what it is. Yeah. So it's like we've already got like 4 generations. Yeah. And the main character's brother is 96 and he's still kicking the crap out of everybody. Dude's winning tournaments everywhere. Like every time I turn around, it's like Ninja won another tournament. I'm like, 96? How is this guy still winning these things? But dude's unstoppable. It's stupid.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Have you tried Board Game Arena?
No, I've heard of it, but I haven't tried it.
I just started it this week actually, and it's a lot of fun. The free games are on it, or you can get like a $3 a month premium thing, where you can start any game that you want with the free. I mean, $3 a month is pretty much free anyway.
That's not too
But
bad.
if you just do the free thing, you've got to wait until somebody starts the game that you want to play if it's on the premium. There's a lot of games such as Just One, and that is a fun game. That you don't have to be a member to play it. But what it is it's to 3 to 7 people, and you play as a team. It's a co-op, and you're given a word. And let's say 5 people are playing. One person doesn't see what the word is. They have to guess what the word is. But everybody else has to come up with one word each that'll get that person to say what that word is. For example, one of the words was Joker. And so somebody wrote villain. And you don't know what everybody else is writing either.
Right.
So if you come up with a common thing like another one was arch nemesis. One was Batman. And one person said Joaquin. Why they didn't say like Heath Ledger.
I mean, I immediately went to Mark Hamill because he was the voice of the Joker in the cartoon in the 90s animated Batman series.
With Conrad as the Batman. The best Joker voice ever.
Best
Yes.
Joker voice ever.
And unfortunately, he's retired that
Yep.
because Conrad died.
Yep.
So, but going back to Just One, so everybody writes down one word, then they show it to everybody else, except for the person that's guessing the word. All doubles, all if you use an abbreviation, that's unacceptable. Other languages is unacceptable. Writing the same word only with a different spelling, like if the word was right and you put the right as in
Ah,
right direction, then that's not allowed. So after all of that is said and done, whatever's left over is given to the other person to try to figure out, and they only get one guess. And you do this 13 times, and you try to get 13 points. But if you pass, you just don't get the point. If you guess wrong, not only do you not get the point, but you don't get the point from the next card.
Oh snap! That's pretty tough.
So yeah,
that's like hardcore categories right there.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun though. I played it a couple times, and the first time we got 11 points, and the second time we got 13 points. So we got a perfect score.
There you go. Yeah,
So,
I think games like that are really, really fun if you have the right people playing, but they can be super frustrating if you have all the wrong people.
yes, yeah. Or if you know the person, like some people wouldn't know Joaquin played Joker, so you have to know who you're playing with. And unfortunately, on Board Game Arena, you don't know who you're playing with.
Yeah, I was gonna say who wouldn't know that Joaquin Phoenix played, but there are individuals who just don't watch TV or don't watch movies, and they prefer reading or whatever, and that's fine.
Well, see, you wouldn't even be able to put Joaquin Phoenix because you can only do one word, so you don't be able to put Joaquin.
Right.
And you're guessing that the clues that everybody else is putting will link it to Joker because Joaquin Phoenix also played a lot of other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess really that would be the same thing if you did like Hamill. If you put the last name Hamill in there, people would be like, "Oh, well, it's got to be Darth Vader." He was, So I guess you're in that same boat with that.
Skywalker.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. And the other game I played on there was Abandon All Artichokes.
Abandon All Artichokes. That kind of reminds me of. It must be along the lines of there was this game on Xbox. It's free to play. You can download it. It was like a 4-person player, and it was the old school where like everybody could play on the same Xbox. Like they don't do that anymore. But everybody played in the same room, and everybody like up to 4 people could connect and play. And it was called Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time, and it was fun. It was kind of a weird indie game, but it was fun.
Well, this is a card game that only 2 people can play. And you start off with 10 cards each, and all of them are artichokes. And then you have the garden in the middle, which has 5 cards face up. And you draw 5 cards off of your deck. And of course, you start all artichokes. And the cards in the garden are different vegetables that do different abilities. Like there's one that if you have more than 3 artichokes will allow you to trash 2 of them. And then whatever vegetable you use goes in your discard pile, along with, at the end of your turn, your entire hand goes in the discard pile and you draw 5 more. And the object of the game is to start your turn with no artichokes. All 5 of your cards have to be other vegetables. And that's it. And you win. One game takes less than 5 minutes.
That's fun. I think I should get that.
It's really, really neat.
Is there like a physical copy, or is it just on?
It's a physical copy.
Okay.
Um,
That sounds fun. I think my whole family would like that.
That's what the box looks like.
Yeah, I might have to get that. That looks fun. I think I may have to do that.
It's such a small and simple game. You learn in 2 minutes and play it in 5.
Yeah, I think even my 3-year-old daughter could learn to play that game. That sounds simple.
The only complication would be having to read what each of the other vegetables do.
Yeah,
But there's only I think 5 or 6 different vegetables. Once you understand what one of them does, it's easy.
Yeah.
You just look at it and go, "Oh, I know what that does."
Yeah.
Don't have to read it.
I'm gonna have to look into that because I think like Danielle doesn't really like tabletop RPGs, the way I do. And she's not super big into like the same computer games and stuff. Like she prefers things like Candy Crush and Farmland, and she likes puzzle type games and stuff. More than anything. Um, The Sims was like the big thing that she liked back in the day. That she liked that one. That's about the only like Xbox games that she liked. Oh, there was this one we got. It was called Flip That House, and she liked playing that, where you could you buy these houses and you flip them and then you sell them. It's kind of cool. It was along the lines of was it Farm Simulator but with houses. It's cool. Anyway, those are the types of games that she prefers, and she likes like card games and board games and stuff like that over doing like RPGs and stuff like that, which is fine. So I'm always on the hunt for games that I think she might like, and I think she might actually like this one. So I'm gonna look into that.
To me, it's probably the best filler game I've seen in a long time. Because if you're just looking to kill time, the only downside is it is only a 2-player.
Yeah, but
But I mean that could also be an upside too.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's like you don't, you want to play something, but you don't know what you want to play, but you don't want it to be super long, and it's like a rainy day or whatever, and you're like, I want to play something. Get out and play some artichoke game.
Yeah, actually, let me check on that. I've only played a 2-player. I'm wrong. 2 to 4 players.
Oh, hey, there you go. 2 to 4 players. We could always have Auntie and the grandma come over.
Yeah, retails for $12.99.
That's not bad.
That's very affordable.
That's pretty good.
And
2 to 4 players.
one of the comments on here says, I played it with my 6-year-old, but the focus on deck wrecking is a nice twist, even for those who are already familiar with deck building games.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So there you go. Affordable.
And the artwork is great for kids.
Affordable. Great for families. Quick games. All things you need for kids, because kids have a very short attention span.
Yes.
My daughter has the shortest of attention spans. She's like, hey, what's this? Hey, what's that? Hey, what's this? And before anybody gets in the comments and says, well, she may have ADHD. No, she's 3 years old. No 3-year-old has a huge attention span.
I agree with that. And on the other scale of it's not a really complicated game, but it's a very fun game that is also family friendly, and that's Wingspan.
Wingspan.
It's all about birds.
Yeah.
If you like birds, you'll love Wingspan.
I like to eat birds.
Well, there's no eating involved in this, except the birds eat worms and stuff. So. But there's no eating the birds.
I like me some chicken strips. I like me some chicken strips. Occasionally some fried turkey leg.
But even my mom likes this game. And she doesn't like a whole lot of games other than cards.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
but
that's the way Daphne is. Daphne doesn't really. She's not really into a lot of board game stuff, but she likes to play cards.
What makes this game? You know what? I'll be right back.
Folks, while we're waiting on him to come back, I just want to say this video is sponsored by coffee. Coffee. Go drink some, because everyone needs it. It's for everyone else's health more than it is yours. Go drink coffee. will do our next video. We'll go into a little more depth into the RPG that I was talking about at the beginning, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. I see an arm. He's back.
Talk about me behind my back. So, this is Wingspan.
Oh, that looks really nice.
It was created by three older women that are bird watchers. And so all of the art is the instructions. Comes with a nice little tray to keep all the cards in. And those are the birds.
Oh, that's cool. Is that a hawk? Red-tailed hawk?
It is a red-tailed hawk.
See, growing up in the country. Growing up in the country.
Yeah. And what's really cool about it is at the bottom, there's a little map of what country you'll find it, or where a lot of them are in multiple countries. But
yeah.
That's in America. And then it gives you a little 1 sentence fact about it. And then over here, it actually gives you, I don't know if you can see it very clear or not, it actually gives you the wingspan of the bird. And sometimes that actually comes into play of the game.
Yeah.
Then the board itself is a really neat idea. Everybody gets their own separate board.
Quick, do you know which bird has the biggest wingspan?
Is it still the albatross?
It is the albatross of 12 feet. 12.
And it's a very tiny bird in comparison.
In comparison to some, yeah, because like you have like the what is that? The what's that bird? I think it's in South America. It's like 6 foot tall or whatever. But in comparison, its wingspan is only like 8 or 9 feet.
Then you have the dice roller, aka bird feeder.
Oh, that's kind of cool. That's a cool dice roller.
All the dice have the different types of food that you can collect, and that's how you pay for your birds.
Oh, so you
each bird has the type of food that it takes.
And so, like, I guess the goal of the game is to get like all the different types of birds, or a certain amount of types of birds.
There's a lot of different goals. Like the birds are different points. And then you have certain goals like one of the. Get the board back out. I should have a table. That would have been such a good idea. Maybe next time. But like with the board here, you have 3 little habitats. You have the trees, the ground and fields, and then water. And then you have 5 spaces that you can put 5 birds in each row. And on your turn, you can either play a bird out of your hand, you can get a food out of the bird feeder, and like say you have a bird here, then you would collect 2 food from the feeder. If you have 2 birds, then you collect this one. If you have 3 birds, you do this. And so you get the food here, then you move your cube all the way down, and each bird has an activation on it. And so every time you take that, whether it's food, egg, or card, you do all the activations on that row.
Mm.
And so you might get more points, or it'll give you more cards. This one, um, gain all wheat that are in the bird feeder. So it gives you a lot of food.
Yeah.
And it happens to be the emu who has no wingspan because it's a flightless bird.
Has very tiny wings in comparison.
Yes. Which
Also,
brings me to the most artistic parts of the game, and that's
emus hiss. Like when I found out they hissed as opposed to like cawing or whatever, like most birds, I was like, well, that seems strange. But then I was like, they're very aggressive. So it's like kind of tricks you. Like you hear something hissing, you're thinking like, oh, it's a big cat. Nope, it's an emu, and he's gonna peck your eyeball out.
the eggs.
Ah, that's cool.
There are several different colors of eggs.
Yeah.
And then when you collect the food, you get these little tokens. So it's a fun little game. The only downside to it, and up to 5 people can play this version.
Mm-hmm.
They just released. Let's see, I've got the Americas, European, and Oceania birds. They just released the Asia ones with a way of playing 7 players.
Oh, nice. So you have
So
like a decent sized little game party and have 7 people up there.
yeah,
Cool. Well, that moves us on to our things, games, things portion. We're gonna go to things that that kind of tick me off over the past couple of weeks.
oh dear, get that list out.
Let's get this list out. I'm gonna mostly stick to one. It's kind of a dead horse at this point. A lot of people have talked about it. Is Wizards of the Coast and their OGL situation. It's so dumb, right? Because for 23 years, people were able to use the OGL and make content, right? And it's really just a greedy corporation just trying to cash grab. And it's so dumb because the only thing that OGL allowed people to actually do is use the mechanics of the game, right? And so what they could do is they could copy and paste the mechanics of the game. Hey, this is how your AC works. Hey, this is how attacks work. Those are game mechanics. And those types of things can't even be copywritten anyway, right? Because they had a whole big thing about this for board games. Board games went through that same thing where people were trying to cut off the license to anything related. But it's like you cannot copyright mechanics of games. You can copyright the idea of a specific world, named characters, that type of thing, because that falls under like intellectual property, right? So like you couldn't make a movie and call it Scorpion King because that name Scorpion King is a protected license that a film company owns. You could still make a movie about a guy who is a scorpion and a king. You just can't call it Scorpion King. You know, you know what I'm saying? He just can't have the same name. You know, but you can copy and paste the same exact idea as long as all the names are different.
That's like Magic years ago. I don't know what the outcome was, but Magic the Gathering was trying to sue some of the companies for using the term tap to exhaust your character.
Yeah, yeah.
And whether that's the case or not, I think a lot of them just decided to use the word exhaust
Right.
because they didn't want any of the complications. But it means the exact same thing. Everybody knows what you mean when you say exhaust or tap.
Yeah. It's just so the
They
word
just want
exhaust
it
and
to
tap
be
were words
nitpicky.
well before Wizards of the Coast came up with it, using it as a card game. They might have
Yeah.
been the first to use it in that manner, right, in relation to a card game, but that's not necessarily true. You'd have to go back and research every single card game ever made to see if that's the case.
Yeah. Just another example of shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah, no, yeah. They have lost so much business over this. It's crazy. There are so many people jumping ship to other systems that it will take a while for them to recover from this whole debacle. They were making one source I read said that they made like $150 million profit last year. $150 million. Why would you shoot yourself in the foot? It makes no sense from a business standpoint to shoot yourself in the foot for a 3% increase. That's really all they would have got. Third party distributors and third party creators, they were not making so much money that it would have made that big of a difference to $150 million.
Right.
There are so few third party distributors or creators that make content that people will buy, right? Because so much work goes into it. Like, there is so much work that goes into making something that someone will actually purchase with money, that there was only a handful of successful individuals making third party content. And not only that, but they were actually putting in their books that this is D&D compatible. If you want to play this module, you actually need the player's handbook. You need the GM guide, right? So they would have to go buy those books from Wizards of the Coast, right? Or from stores that had a deal with them to sell physical copies. Like you could get it at Barnes and Noble, right? So they're getting money. They still have to buy the core book for the core rules before they can even play the modules that are getting released. So it's like you're still making money hand over fist. Why are you shooting yourself in the foot for 3%?
Yeah.
So dumb. It's so dumb.
I agree. I'm just glad I wasn't one of the ones that was affected by it.
Yeah. Me and Paul played way back in the day during the days of 3.5. That was so long ago. I'm so old. Anyway,
You're giving away your age right now.
yeah, during 3.5, we played during 3.5, and then we stopped playing, and we played Star Wars instead, which was also at the time that was made by Wizards of the Coast, right?
Yeah.
Wizards of the Coast chose to give up that license. They chose to be douchebags about that. Right? They could have had another IP if they had just gotten somebody to run that part who was a fan of Star Wars. It could have been as big of a money making machine as D&D was for them these past few years. Right? And it only got big again because of the player base. right? Because they allowed people to make third party content. Without those people making third party content, D&D would have died years ago. Like completely dead. You would have had old books on a shelf from a very few players who still had them. And that would have been it. Print would have been gone. It would have went downhill. They would have made none. That whole thing would have been shut down. It's only because of the players. When you start screwing over your players, that's it. You're done. You're not coming back from that. And if you do, it's going to take a long time to do.
Hmm.
Yeah. What was that? What was that game? Some years ago. It was like a space exploration for. You could get it on PC, Xbox, PlayStation. What was that game called? I never played it, but like there were like it would procedurally generate like thousands of worlds. Oh my goodness, man, I can't think of it. It was like
What kind of game was it? Like a expansion or
it was
like
just
an RPG
it
game
was like
or?
an open world exploration game. Um, Anyway, I can't think of the name of it at the moment. If anybody watches this video and you know what it is, just put it down in the chat down below. Um, but anyway, when it came out, like the it showed all these really cool like dinosaur looking things in the ads and whatnot. Like it looked awesome, and then when it came out, it was garbage. I mean, it was trash. But I gotta hand it to the studio. It was a really small studio that made it. I gotta hand it to the studio. They worked hard to like fix all the crap that went wrong with that game. And they clawed their way back up and got a pretty decent amount of player base to come back and play the game some more. Because they worked at it, man. They weren't purposefully trying to screw over their players, right? They made an honest mistake of an expectation that just didn't happen, right? They just could not meet the expectation of what they wanted to produce for the player base. But they worked at it, and eventually it got better. It's like Minecraft for space, basically.
Oh, are you talking about surviving Mars?
No,
How far along? Really, that? How far ago was it? How
it's
long
been
ago?
like 5 or 6 years, maybe better.
Maybe Civilization Beyond Earth.
Nah, it was a first-person game. I'll try to find it, look it up. We'll mention it in the next one.
All right.
What about your things this week?
Well, I've been playing um Star Wars CCG
Oh yeah,
online, and they just started doing um, tournaments, sealed deck tournaments called All of the Jedi. And what it is you get 3 packs of every set,
oh,
and then you make a 40 card light side and a 40 card dark side, and you can play 10 games with each of them, and you have like 2 or 3 weeks to play all of the games, and then of course everything is virtual.
yeah.
So I opened on my light side 2 Mace Windu's. Not no. I had 2 Qui-Gon Jinns from Naboo, a Kiadi Mundi, Premier Obi-Wan, and Jedi Knight Skywalker. I was like, why couldn't I pull this good back in the day?
Yeah, yeah,
It was just 3 packs of everything, and that included 3 packs of each not revolution,
reflections.
reflections
Yeah,
of 1, 2, and 3. So 9 packs of reflections.
dang.
It was nuts. And my dark side, I got 2 Maul with lightsabers,
Oh,
a
jeez.
Lord Maul, a Lord Vader, um, the flagship executor.
Oh, jeez.
But I didn't get the flagship operations to make it immune to attrition.
Yeah, that.
But,
I tell you
but
what.
still, every time I throw it out there, somebody's like, ah!
Yep, yep. I tell you what though, if you get that flagship operations and you have that out there, holy crap, that is just an absolute crusher.
Oh, yeah. Especially in the seal deck.
Yeah, because like you can just throw all your pilots on there.
Because everybody's wondering, what? Why are you allowing me to force train you so much? Oh, just wait.
just, just wait, just wait. Oh man.
And I had the Chimera with Thrawn.
Oh, that's a deadly combination.
It's like, but the thing is everybody that's on that site, and this is my one downside of that is they're all ones that have been playing since the beginning.
Yep.
You know, I took what nearly 15 years off from playing. And what I do like about it is they have all the virtual cards.
Oh, okay.
They even made them up to episode 9,
Oh, wow.
and off of all like Clone Wars and stuff. I haven't taken a look at them, but you have an option of playing them with or without them. They have one where it's just you're only allowed Jawas.
I got an entire deck that's Jawas. That's perfect.
I love it. The only thing is, I haven't played it, so I don't know. But if both are playing only Jawas, don't you just whoever plays the Jawa camp, they win because they can choke out the other person by not having any force left over? Or is there another way of getting Jawas out for free?
There's not another way of getting Jawas out for free.
Scouse, but he's not a Jawa. Our little Scouse.
So I don't know what they did on the virtual site. I haven't been on the virtual site in years because the last time I played, it was on my tablet that I had at the time, and I had really bad internet where we were living, and so like this, I was trying to play this game, and my internet kept going out, and this guy just kept cursing at me, and I'm like, you know what? Screw this. I didn't come on here to get cursed at because I have bad internet. I came on here to try to play the game that I love. So
Right.
I just like left the dude a message. Screw you. Bye.
Yeah, they've pretty much weeded out all of the jerks on it.
Yeah.
I haven't had anybody have any bad language on it, which is good.
But there are Jawas from one of the sets that doesn't require force from both players. But
Yeah, there's some from Special Edition and Jabba's Palace.
Yeah, there was only like 2 or 3, and they were named Jawas. They weren't like just Jawa. They had their own specific name. And you could just put them out without having to spend force or requiring your opponent to have it to put them out. So, but I think that other than that, it's pretty much just the Jawa camp that lets you do that.
Unless they did something in the programming to allow both people to have access to it.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the thing is like maybe regardless of whose Jawa camp it is, they can still both put Jawas down for free. They just don't both get force from it.
Yeah. Because like with all of the seal decks, they have it where it's programmed where you can during your deploy phase, you can go through your deploy phase once or go through your reserve deck once and pull out a battleground site that hasn't been used yet once per game. That way, you're getting more force,
Yeah.
and there's less of a chance of getting force choked.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to,
Not impossible, but
yeah. Yeah. I used to love doing that, being able to force choke people, because just being able to force choke people is one of the best strategies. Like, it wasn't used a lot back in the day, but it was pretty effective if you knew what you were doing, if you had the right like setup, because one, you didn't need a whole lot of characters to keep those places because they couldn't put anybody down in the first place, and then second, a lot of times when they did finally get one of their own places out, it's usually not the same planet that you're doing, right? And so that makes it effective because they can't deploy to where you're at because they have no icons, and then two, they can't move to where you're at because it's a different planet, So,
yep. And if you got the Death Star, who cares whether the light side went first? You were golden.
yeah. Yeah, if you did that right, you got so much activated force. And then there were several Death Star battleground sites that only gave you force, and you
Yep.
did not have to give them anything. And so you could have like three, I think there was like, three sites, I think, in total for the Death Star that only gave the dark side icons. And so you could just force choke people by just putting the Death Star out there and putting those three down.
Yeah. The only problem is if you did just land or just space. You had to have a combination of both.
Yeah.
Because you had to have a way of force training them at the locations that they actually did have.
Yeah.
So
But here's the thing though, the chances are if you're playing the Death Star specifically so that you get a bunch of force and you give them none, you're playing a pretty much all space deck anyway, which means you can just send your ships wherever.
yeah.
Because most of the like Star Destroyers and stuff, they could move like 4 or 5 parsecs in one go.
Yeah. And if they're, around the Death Star,
Yeah.
then you could just move the Death Star closer to the.
Yeah. Yeah. You could move it 1 parsec a turn, I think is what it was.
Yep.
So it's like,
And it starts at 0, so like in 4 turns, you have it in the middle of the galaxy.
right. Like, just stick it in the middle of the galaxy and you can reach pretty much anywhere.
So, the other seal decks that they have are the regular seal deck, episode 1, where you're given 5 of each of the episode 1 packs to open. But my favorite one is the enhanced sealed.
Yeah.
Because you have the enhanced premiere.
Mm-hmm.
You get to choose 1 dark side, 1 light side. You have the enhanced Jabba's Palace. And you get to choose 2 of each of those.
Yep.
And then the Cloud City, you get to choose 2 of each of those. So it was that one. I had my own little bounty hunter deck because I pulled. Of course, I had Jodo Cost. I had Mara Jade and her lightsaber because I knew C3PO or 3PO had Jodo Cost and the lightsaber. I was the only one that I've played so far that picked that one. Everybody. They have like Mara Jade, but I haven't seen Jodo Cost or her lightsaber being played. Like, why? That was the best combo.
Yeah.
And then in Cloud City, I went with Fett and Slave 1, and the IG.
I mean, I tell you what, having having Boba Fett, because what was it? Jabba's palace. I think there was the Boba Fett that with his blaster rifle, right? With his
Yeah,
carbine.
that was like in Reflection 3.
Reflections 3. So
Oh,
like
wait, no. The one with the blaster rifle was Enhanced Premiere.
enhanced premiere. So
Yeah.
that's a pretty nasty combo. If you're doing enhanced stuff and you put the Boba Fett with his blaster rifle and IG together, IG-88 together with his permanent weapons. Holy crap! That is a combo right there. That is
Yeah.
that is death dealing, uh, capturing everyone and your mother so that you can freeze them.
Yeah. And I pulled 4 bounties out
holy
of Cloud City.
holy crap! That's stupid.
And I pulled four bounties, a Vader's bounty, which I didn't pull. Well, I do have Vader with lightsaber,
Yeah.
and I pulled Hut bounty,
Oh jeez.
and I pulled the security tower, and I pulled Jabba's dungeon.
Oh man.
The only thing I didn't pull was all wrapped up.
Oh man. That's such a good combination though.
So I've got 2 hidden weapons and Jodo Cost. The only Boba Fett I have is in Slave 1. But I did pull Mandalorian armor.
That that makes it worth it. Yeah.
And my bounty hunters to choose from are 2 Jajaspurs, Feldspar and Travag, 4 Lom, Bosk with mortar gun, IG-88 with his automatically captures. Actually, I think, yeah, Bosk's mortar gun captures too.
Yep.
Dan's born, but I never use him.
I don't think anybody ever used Dan's board.
No. Reese, Jodocast, and Beto.
Beto. Beto, the better Greedo.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and I pulled Thermal Detonator.
Oh, wow. Thermal det.
I have not been able to pull that one off of.
Here's the thing: is thermal detonators are kind of a catch-22. They could either go really good for you or really bad.
Well, that's why you only go in with one person and
Yeah, he's in like a single stormtrooper. Like, here, hold this. Here, hold this. Go in that room. Ah! Just kill everybody.
You remember the card Trento Dwaba?
Yeah.
So I put that in every deck that I can. And I was playing. It was all of the Jedi. And they used 3 Force to react to move somebody over. And they used 2 Force to fire a weapon. So they had the 3 Force from the react, 2 Force for the weapon, the 1 Force for the destiny from the weapon, 2 Force for the lightsaber draw, and 1 card from the battle destiny. And I used Trenta Dwaba, and I drew a 1.
Ooh.
And in their deck, or in their use pile, was Obi-Wan with lightsaber. No, just Obi-Wan.
But he's a 1.
Yeah, Ki-Adi-Mundi.
Oh.
And Han Solo.
That stings. That stings.
It's like, yes! The only time you want a 1.
Yep.
So, needless to say, I actually won that one. But my win record is not that good. a lot of them use the interrupts and stuff, and they can count and track their cards. I was never that interested in it. I could do it, but I just never. I was never that deep into having to win. I never needed it with the group that we had.
Yeah, no. I think I think the best game we ever played together was the very last physical tournament we went to in Murray at the library there.
Yeah,
Because you had Luke and you pulled somebody else, and I can't remember. Was it Luke and Han? Or was it Luke and Leia?
that was a regular enhanced.
Yeah, it was the Premier Enhanced.
Yeah. Uh, it was Luke and Leia, and I had Skywalkers.
Yep, that's what it was.
Yeah,
And then I had like the opposite of that, where my first opponent gave me Tarkin,
and you had Vader with Saber.
and I had Vader with Saber. So you had the good combo with Skywalkers, and I had the good combo with Tarkin and Vader together, and so like it was just like a cat and mouse game of like who's gonna die of attrition first.
Oh yeah.
That was fun. That was a fun game. That was like so stressful. Like I think I won by like 7 cards. It wasn't a huge win, but it's like it was so fun.
That was crazy. The best game I ever played Chad against was um, it was my Jedi training deck, and this wasn't in a tournament. This was after we had gotten, or it was either before or after the tournament, and because me and Chad were always on the same side.
Mm-hmm.
We never played each other in a tournament, not one single time.
Yeah, it was just kind of luck of the draw.
Yeah. And it was always him and you, or him and Dusty,
Yep.
or Clint and you, or Clint and Dusty, depending on whether. And Dusty stank.
Yeah. So like Dusty was always fortunate enough to get really good draws.
Well, yeah.
Like somehow he would always get really good cards, but he just sucked at any kind of tactics.
And he was one that you could psych out.
Yeah.
Because I remember one game, he had like 5 or 6 people on this Cloud City site, and I had 2, and not even enough ability to draw Battle Destiny. But I had a handful of cards. And so he goes to initiate the battle, and I'm like, yes! He immediately stopped and just started drawing cards up into his hand and said, "Force is with you." I was like, dude, are you serious?
That
I had nothing to do. My neighbor leads them out of there. Like, that's crazy. It actually worked. But anyway, the best game I ever played against Chad, Jedi Training Deck. I lost by 1 card.
Oh wow.
And I had my Obi-Wan's hut, and it had Revolution,
Mm-hmm.
Obi-Wan with lightsaber, Qui-Gon with lightsaber, or with a Jedi lightsaber. Daughter of Skywalker with Anakin saber, and there's another Jedi with a lightsaber. Can't remember who it was. Anyway, So I was force training 7.
Yikes.
And
Yikes.
I had no other Tatooine location out. And of course, I didn't use Revolution until I had all of those there.
Yeah.
Oh, and was it wasn't Presence of the Force, lightsaber proficiency, which adds 1 to force strands and 3 to the power of the. So I was force training 8.
Yeah. I did that with Obi-Wan's hut. Where I would put a bunch of people on Obi-Wan's hut with lightsabers, and then
Yeah, you may have been the one to give me that idea. I don't know.
it was a super fun thing to do.
Oh yeah.
I think the most fun I ever had. These are the dark side decks that I made. I had a lot of fun playing like the droid, the the droid deck where you would put a bunch of droids at Jabba's palace in the torture chamber, and then you could force for like the what's that droid's name? The torture droid.
99.
What is it? OM99?
99.
EV99. Yeah, EV99. It's +1 force strain for every droid there. So I would use battle droids because with battle droids the rule was they could force strain and be force strained because they counted as having presence,
Yep.
which most other droids didn't, right? So I had a bunch of battle droids,
Battle.
right? So I had a bunch of the battle droids that were like that all worked together and did extra special stuff and allowed them to draw battle destiny and all that stuff, and then just put them all in Jabba's palace and put them all in that room and did a force strain of like 15 in one turn. And I'm like, oh, that's great. I love that.
Client had one of those droid decks that was just to tick people off.
Yeah.
I don't know if he ever played it against you with that one or not, but there wasn't a card in that deck that was below a 4 destiny.
Mm.
There were no cards with ability in that deck. It was all just droids. And he had the Never Tell Me the Odds.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the other one? A whole bunch of counter assaults. And because even if you're dealing with middle class to lower high class characters, you're still going to lose to 4, 5, 6 destinies.
Yeah. Because it's 1 for every character. You draw a card for 1 for every character, right? And so even like if their power is average of 3, right? Which is not even close to the case most of the time. It's like a 2 is the
Right.
average, right? So you got 4 characters with power 2, right? You're thinking, I'm sitting high. I got 8 power. What you got about that? And then just like you're drawing 4 cards, like 4, 4, 4, 4. What the crap, you know? So it's
Or my favorite one, the Never Tell Me the Odds, was the everybody took the lowest or the 3 lowest destiny characters. You know, it's not characters with ability; it's characters.
yeah,
And so you have Obi-Wan, Luke, and Leia, all are destinies of 1,
Yep.
and you have against droids that are all 4s.
yeah,
They lose 9 force
yeah,
with 1 card,
yeah,
and they know it's coming
yeah.
because it's a face-up insert
Yeah,
card.
it's terrifying. It was that is a terrifying prospect to lose that much force in one. Like anybody who watches this video, that is a terrifying thing because here's the kicker, right? You could have multiple cards of that. You could have I think up to 2 in your deck, right? So you could give them one, and then you give them another,
No, there was no limit as to how many you had in your deck. You could only put one in there at a time.
Right. Yeah, you could only put one in there. But you don't want to waste all of your resources doing that, right? It's fun to do,
Yeah,
to mess with people. And the thing is, like, you could just guarantee that if you get both of those in your hand at some point, well, by the time you get the second one, they've lost some more force. It's going to happen quicker, and which means
yeah.
when they lose the next nine, it's going to hurt way more. Yeah.
Yeah. But then they had to come out with those cards that um, if you had multiple copies of the same card in your hand, you lost all of them.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Cards like that, people started using those. And
Yeah. I
they
mean,
made the defensive shields.
it was kind of like they had to figure out something extra to do, with the sequels and all that stuff, or not
Yeah.
sequels, but with the prequels. They had to figure out because they already had like a really good system set up, so they had to come up with new ideas, and I guess that's what they came up with. But
It's
you
like,
know,
let's balance the game. No, don't balance the game. If you're clever enough to come up with an idea, don't ruin it for all of us.
yeah, I gotta say, Tatooine, worst one out of all of them. I really didn't like. I didn't. There really wasn't a lot in the Tatooine box set that just like, oh, I gotta have that. Other than the Jawas and the Tusken Raiders, you could make a pretty good, compelling deck out of the Tusken Raiders and Jawas.
I like the Watto idea.
I mean,
That
it was
that
okay.
that objective was killer. Um, what was it called? I'm not talking about the pod racing one. That was a horrible,
Yeah, they
horrible
should
thing.
have just left pod racing out of it completely, or they should have made it simplified, where like what I would have done with the pod race thing is it would have been an insert, and you insert the card in your deck, and then when it reaches the top, you get so many force back or whatever. Like I don't know, something simple that wouldn't have taken your entire deck to do a pod race that just was overly complicated and stupid in the first place.
Yeah, and Lights Out only had Anakin's.
Yeah, yeah. One light side pod. That was dumb. You telling me that all of those other pod racers were bad guys? No, not likely.
I was just like, no. Let's see. And of course, Aura Singh was amazing.
Yeah.
Uh, Single cards by sets, Tatooine. What
They
was that objective?
they could have done something more specific with like bounty hunters.
Yeah, especially considering Aura Singh.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're at the almost at the 1:30 mark here. So we've talked about games, we've talked about things. What about stuff? Games,
What about
things, and
stuff?
stuff. Let's get back on this train of thought we had at the beginning. What were we talking about? Um, something about oh, we were talking about gluten. That's what we were talking. We were talking
Oh,
about gluten.
yeah, that's the stuff.
That's
Okay.
the stuff. We were talking about gluten. Like I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand people who are like, but I'm allergic to gluten. I'm a vegan. No one cares that you're a vegan. No one. No one cares.
Hmm.
If you're a vegan because of health reasons, more power to you. I think that's fine. But if you're a vegan because you want to be a douchebag to everybody else, go somewhere and put a bucket on your head.
Chicken.
You know,
Preferably a bucket of chicken.
preferably a bucket of chicken with lots of grease.
Oh, speaking of which, last night I was logging on to get onto the Star Wars thing, and on the homepage um, of I think it's Bing. I think that's what my server or
Web browser.
web browser is. Yeah, it's Bing. Anyway, they had an article on there about this woman who went on Twitter and was complaining about the food that she got from a food bank.
It's a food bank. You're there for
Like,
literal charity.
she's like, this can is dented. It's not even fresh food. It's in cans. And then, one was like ground turkey. I'm a vegetarian. I don't even eat meat.
Then don't get it.
And so I was like, oh, I got noodles, but what am I supposed to put on it? Well, maybe I could put this tomato soup on it. And she got so many complaints and people laughing at her that she deleted her Twitter account. Because one of the comments was, why are you going to the food bank when you have a manicure that costs more than all the food in that bag? Because her nails were perfectly done. And another person was like, yeah, and you're probably making that video with your iPhone. It's hilarious, the comments that they were making. Like, and she ended the video with, well, I'm just not going to eat any of this stuff. I'm going to go out to my backyard and pick some frozen dandelions and put them in water and eat that, because there's no way I can eat any of this stuff.
Frozen dandelions.
And everybody was just like,
If you're somewhere in the winter, if you're somewhere where winter freezes things, you wouldn't have any dandelions. They'd all be dead.
yeah.
There's no such thing as a frozen dandelion unless you've picked them ahead of time and put them in your freezer after preparing them. I'm all for eating dandelions. They're pretty tasty. You know, you can eat the root, the stem, the flower, like all that. You can eat the whole plant. It's one of the few things you can eat the whole thing. You can make tea out of the root and the leaves. It's great. You can make jam out of it. It's fine.
I think dandelion wine.
Yeah, dandelion wine. Somebody made dandelion, what's that? Champagne. I hate champagne, but hey, if you like it, go for
it. Yeah. Cheryl had made some hibiscus cake.
Hibiscus cake?
Yeah, and it actually had the leaves of the hibiscus candied.
Huh.
I don't know how she did it, but it was delicious. It was really good. Of course, Grandpa was like, I never thought I would eat a flower on a cake. You know. Like, you have flour in cake all the time. And of course, Grandpa loved that joke. It's right up his alley.
Oh, man.
But yeah, like you said, if people have genuine food allergies,
yeah,
then, you know, all the more power to them.
Yeah. Some people have a genuine peanut allergy. Like, if they have anything peanut, they literally go into anaphylactic shock and die, right? There's genuine allergies. There's people with genuine issues, right? And they have to be careful. There's nothing wrong with asking, like, hey, I have this really bad allergy. Is this made with peanuts? Does this have gluten in it? I could possibly die if I eat it, so I kind of need to know ahead of time before I order food, right? There's nothing wrong with asking that question. But if you're just there being a jerk, like, I have a gluten allergy, but you really don't have a gluten allergy, come on. Come on, just go somewhere and put a bucket on your head. You know, it's.
Or as old Paul Harvey would say, "Wake up, America!"
I thought that was Earl Pitts.
Oh, you're right.
It was Earl Pitts.
Paul Harvey was rest of the story.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
That's right.
Now
My bad.
you know the rest of the story. Paul Harvey. Good day. I used to love listening to him. I like to listen to Paul Harvey. He had some of the best stories on his show.
Yeah, but a lot of times it was a little long-winded,
Yeah.
and you're like, "What was the rest of the story?"
Yeah.
Just get to the end.
Yeah. But Earl Pitts was the guy you're thinking of. You're like,
Yeah.
you know what makes me sick? You know what makes me so angry? I used to
That's right.
Yeah, he always came on at 12, and they like on the country station. What was it? The Beaver around here is what it was called.
Yep.
And he came on right after they always did the national anthem at 12 o'clock, and so he always came on right after that.
Yep. And now it's Bob and Tom
That's
in the morning.
Yeah. Well, I think we should probably end it there. That's probably long enough. We don't want to go too long and bore people with our stupidity. Might actually have made
One segment now.
someone lose brain cells listening to us. So we'll end it there. And anyone who's watching this, thank you for sticking around to the end. We appreciate it. We will do more of this. We'll talk about more games, things, and stuff in the future. And until then, have a great day. Drink some coffee. Don't kill people, because it's not nice, I think. And we'll see you guys next time.
Have a good one.